The Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, joins me from Canberra. Thanks for being with us, Treasurer.
Good evening. Nice to be with you, Leigh.
This mid-year economic forecast has downgrades everywhere you look. Growth, inflation, wages, household consumption, business investment growth. Every sign points to a struggling economy. So how is it not reckless to cling to your surplus at all costs mentality?
Well, just to correct the record there for you, Leigh, actually these numbers show that the participation rate is better than what was forecasted budget, that public final demand, which is government spending on infrastructure as well as programs like the NDIS, is also up from budget.
But Treasurer, I don't think you're correcting anything there. I'm pointing to the major economic indicators: growth, inflation, wages, household consumption.
Well, I am correcting you because what you said there, Leigh, was that every indicator was pointing downwards, and that's not right. In fact, mining investment will have the biggest jump in 7 years. First time will be up in 7 years. And what we've seen from today's mid-year economic update is that Australians can be confident about their economic future. We're living within our means. The budget is back in balance for the first time in 11 years, and we'll deliver the first surplus in 12 years. That the Australian economy will continue to grow on the back of a strong labour market, increased exports, household consumption, and as well as public final demand. And we're putting record amounts into the essential services that people need and rely upon. And in this mid-year update, you're seeing extra money for infrastructure, $4.2 billion, either in new projects or money that's brought forward into the forward estimates, as well as increased support for aged care and drought.
Treasurer, what do you think Australian voters care more about, a tiny budget surplus next year or staying out of recession?
Well, the budget surplus has never been about a trophy for the cabinet shelf. What it's been about is paying back the debt that we've inherited. Now, our
Treasurer,
interest bill...
sorry to keep cutting you off, but I want to clear that up. It's not debt that you've inherited. Debt has doubled since the coalition took office.
Well, when the Labor Party came to government, they were bequeathed a pristine balance sheet with zero government debt. Then they accumulated $240 billion of budget deficits. We inherited a situation where debt was growing by more than 30% per year.
It's doubled over that time you've been in power.
And it's taken 6 years for us to get that under control. So much so that we've now brought the budget back into balance and will deliver the first surplus. Now, our interest bill is $19 billion last year. What the numbers show today is that will decrease to $14.5 billion over the forward estimates, and in cumulative terms, Leigh, that's $13.5 billion that will no longer be paid in interest that can be spent on schools, on hospitals and other essential services.
Treasurer, monetary policy's run its race. There's no more stimulus to be had there. Interest rates at a record low. The case for fiscal expansion is staring you right in the face, but you are determined to bank more money rather than spend it in an economy that's desperate for stimulus.
Well, just last week, the IMF released a report which said that our fiscal settings were appropriately expansionary for the 1920 year. You've heard respected economist Chris Richardson saying that both fiscal and monetary policy are pointing towards economic growth. And we know that we are continuing to spend record amounts on schools, hospitals and aged care, and we've got a $100 billion 10-year infrastructure plan. So we need to be responsible. The Labor Party will make heaps of promises. They won't add up the sums. And, of course, they wanted to load the economy at this delicate time with $387 billion of higher taxes.
You're trying to paint a very rosy picture, but if everything is as rosy as you suggest, why are we seeing GDP growth downgraded? Why are we seeing household consumption growth downgraded, business investment growth downgraded, wages growth downgraded?
So on household consumption, some people are saving as opposed to spending, and ultimately it's my job to put more money in their pocket. But what we saw in the last national accounts is that household disposable income had its fastest increase in a decade, and that's not insignificant. When it comes to business investment, actually that's going up, and as I said, mining investment will have its first jump in 7 years. So what we're determined to do is to grow the economy, and what these numbers show is that next year the Australian economy will grow faster than the United States, the UK, Germany, France, Japan and other comparable nations.
Treasurer, are you suggesting that all the economists today interviewed and economic analysts who've looked at this have got it wrong, and that it's actually a wonderful rosy picture and nothing to be worried about?
Well, what I'm saying to you is that we've worked really hard to bring spending under control, and we've done that in terms of bringing the budget back into balance, and we will deliver the surplus without increasing taxes. And that has been, required significant discipline. But I also don't understate some of the significant global and domestic headwinds, Leigh, that we're facing. The drought has taken 1/4 percentage point off GDP, and of course it's required additional support into those communities. The trade tensions, which may be showing some signs of abating, have also affected negatively consumer sentiment and business sentiment. So we can't ignore those facts.
On that point, Treasurer, given that what the effect those things have had, why wouldn't you drastically expand your infrastructure program and bring aspects of it forward to turbocharge the economy and job creation and to make up for some of the hit from those other factors?
Well, we actually have brought it forward in terms of $4.2 billion.
No, but I'm suggesting further.
Well, this is quite significant. You've got major projects, not like the North East Link in Victoria, the North-South Corridor in South Australia, the Tonkin Highway, the Bass Highway, the Bruce Highway upgrade. I mean, these are all major projects that we're bringing forward into the forward estimates in terms of spending, as well as new projects. And you've also heard from, Labor state governments talk about capacity constraints within their own states. If you don't get the funding profile right, if you don't get the pipeline right, then ultimately the taxpayer pays more because there are those constraints on getting the skilled workers or getting the necessary materials and equipment to do the work.
Treasurer, this will be your last appearance on the program before Christmas. I wish you a very merry one.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your regular availability for the show throughout the year.
And all the best to your viewers as well.